All right. Good morning, good afternoon, or evening, whichever and wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Truck Around and Find Out podcast. It's where we like to get together and talk about some fun and interesting stuff surrounding the trucking community, our lives up here in northern Colorado, safety, community, all that good stuff. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Byers. I'm the owner of Front Range Compliance and DOT University, and we would generally have Keith with us. I think he left early for this Memorial Day weekend. This recording is going to be coming out the Tuesday after the holidays, so I hope you all had a great Memorial Day weekend. Also joined here by Redbeard. Mr. Redbeard, how you doing today?
Doing good. How about yourself?
It's been a long couple of weeks. They're very busy, put a lot of miles on the car, it seems. So
Yes, you did.
This week I had that big audit with that company, which we shall not name. Very good company. Nothing bad about them. Great program. It was really nice, because you know who we deal with a lot of companies that need help right now. They're just getting started or they've been started, but they never really had good guidance. And every once in a while, I get asked to go into a very well-known, very good, reputable company, and I'm very proud to say this week, and they know who they are, so hopefully they're listening. I gave them all some TAFO stickers, so
Very nice.
Hopefully they'll be tuning in. Hopefully we'll get one of them here as a guest. Seems pretty interested in it, and so I got to kind of go in and look at thousands of pages of documents, doing a kind of internal audit, just seeing where they're at. And yeah, good program, very well organized, very well structured, fantastic people. It's so cool going into those companies and learning from them, seeing those habits, that culture. And this company very much is culture driven. Like walk in and in the driver common area, all the awards, all the safety, all the recognition, names, pictures, driver of the month stuff,
that's cool.
A lot of signage, everything from, giving hand signals to crane, people and backing, all the good stuff. Overall was a lot of fun this week doing that audit, but I got to tell you, kind of mentally draining, looking at all the paperwork and that kind of thing for 3 solid days and just one file after another file after another file. But
thousands of documents.
Made it through, and overall they did a really good job, and it was really a whole lot of fun working with them, that type of thing. So so it's just been kind of a long week, trying to get caught up back here in the office for Front Range Compliance, and we got a fun weekend coming up. We're Luke and I are going to be breaking into our new memberships at the, Great Guns, up in Alton. So, Holly got Mike, Luke, and I a membership for some sporting clays and up there at the clays. So we kind of walked away from that last sporting clay event and said, okay, we're going to take this real serious
We
now.
need more practice.
So I went out and ordered a new shotgun. Yes, I did.
Very nice.
Found it, did a little bit of research for it. Finally located it. I'm getting a Caesar Gurnelli. I think I'm saying Guarini. Guarini. One of these days I'll get it right. My whole family's Italian, and you'd think I could get that name right, but it just doesn't roll off my tongue like it should. So Caesar Guarini. Summit. I got a Summit. Came with really good sporting clay reviews and stuff like that. It's absolutely a beautiful shotgun. It's actually my first over and under shotgun. So
is it really?
Yeah, I've shot them, but I've never owned one.
Oh,
so
okay.
this is going to be the first over under sporting gun that I got. I was hoping that we could have it here tomorrow. Didn't come in time, so I went in, filled out the paperwork. As y'all know, you got to do the background and all that. No big deal, no harm, no foul. I've been through that years. But Colorado, in their infinite wisdom, they have a mandatory 3-day grace period. So I have to wait. And the guy was telling me, hey, it's going to be, you can pick it up on Monday. I'm like, cool, pick it up on Monday. That's better than, I wish I could have it by Saturday, but the law is law. No getting them to budge on that. So I get it. And I walked out and I was like, wait a minute, Monday's a holiday. So I went back in And the owner was in there, and she said, "Yeah, we're not going to be here on Monday." So I have a mandatory 4-day grace period.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know that's okay. That's all right. But yeah, super excited. Found this shotgun, and it bought it used for it was like $1,000 cheap. Less than the brand new one. So it said used, and talking to the dealer, and they said that it was a brand new shotgun. But the case apparently had some scuffs or something on it, so they are forbidden through Caesar, I guess, to sell it as brand new or whatever their contract is.
Interesting.
So they sold it as a used one. And so I was like, well, heck, for $1,000, who cares if the case has got some scratches on it?
Yeah, heck yeah.
I'm probably just going to put more scratches on it, so it's all good. And I'll be darned, I couldn't find any scratches anywhere on anything, so I'm not quite sure what they're talking about there. So the gun is still packed in the original packing grease. It's still, it's definitely new. And couldn't find any scrapes on the case, anything like that. So overall, I think it was a pretty good pickup. But yeah, we'll find out soon enough when we start breaking in that new membership.
Yes,
thanks
we will.
to Holly. Thank you very much for that. Looking very much forward to that. But yeah, you and Mike and I, and Mike's dad is in town, my in-law, and we're gonna get to go out with Kent and check out the sporting clays and that kind of thing, so I can, I don't know, embarrass myself a little bit more here. So gotta get my shooting scores up for the sporting clays. I don't know if y'all have ever done that, but it's a very challenging trap. Trap is easy. I knock those down almost every shot, but sporting clays where they're flying in so many different directions, and that I definitely need some good practice. So
Me too.
Super excited about the tomorrow. We're gonna go out and see what we can do there. But we got a couple of really fun topics today that I wanted to get into. The first one, I guess, that we'll really talk about is the House has gone through I'm trying to find the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee has approved a new act that is going to be the Build America 250. And basically what they have approved, and once it makes it all the way through the House and gets approved by the Senate and then signed by the president into law, it's going to be interesting to see what it turns into. But as of right now, it's $580 billion into the trucking community. So you got, OIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association, praising this bill. They're really pretty excited about it. Got some good stuff that is coming up with that. And you and I were kind of doing a little research on it, and I think some of it's, pretty much common sense. Like, this is needed in the industry. And I think some of it was also a little bit shocking, to kind of hear that this is the things that they're writing into that. And I think, if you're not a driver, I don't think you really understand what some of these guys have to go through on the day-to-day and stuff like that. So I think the biggest one that really kind of blew me away was the restroom thing.
Yep.
So basically what this is saying is that where the drivers are bottlenecked in that those facilities have to provide restroom facilities. Those locations have to have restroom facilities available for the drivers. And it's just kind of, you don't really think about it. You just kind of, in passing, you just kind of assume under general common decency, that's already a thing. Like, we have to have a law for that?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been fighting over who can use what bathroom for how damn long, and we got truck drivers out there waiting in line to pick up and unload for hours at a time, and they won't offer them a restroom. That's a little startling to me.
It is.
So
it is.
I was a little shocked when I read that portion of it. But then reading the comments on that, hearing the drivers say, well, what they're going to make available is porta potties, and a dirty porta potty still means to me that restrooms aren't available. So I'm sure some places are going to be better than others and that kind of thing, but most definitely would like to see, we need to take care of our drivers. I think I've said it many a times on this little broadcast that if you bought it, they brought it. So let's try to take care of it. And drivers, come on. decency, take care of your space. There's always complaints of those messy individuals. So if you're a messy individual, try to unmess yourself. That'd be a good idea. So a couple things that it points out in here. It says, hey, $750 million for truck parking. That's a lot of millions. I don't know if it's enough though.
Yeah, I imagine that's going to get soaked up pretty darn quick.
I glance at that number and I just think of the cost of everything and I just know how much shortage there is. Mm-hmm. 580 billion overall. I don't know if 750 million is going to conquer the truck parking situation out there. I think if they can keep it out of the NGOs and keep the fraud out of it, where people aren't just soaking up these millions and nothing's actually getting done. But we definitely need a solution for these drivers. I think some of the biggest complaints that I get is that there's just no parking. They get out there and, it always kind of is framed around my hours of service training and stuff like that, where, the drivers get to where they're going and there's just nowhere to park and that kind of thing. And if you're a driver that's on a dedicated route or something like that, your areas, your routine. But new people breaking into this industry or somebody going into a new area for the first time, you're kind of just like SOL, straight up out of luck. And that's very, very interesting. So $750 million apparently is going to be in this legislation for parking situations. They got $110 billion for bridges and highways. So bridges and highways. Now, again, when we're talking about bridges and highways, billions, that doesn't seem like that's going to stretch that far either.
No, it doesn't.
These last couple months, I've spent some time traveling. I've been in 6 or 7 different states, and I've driven all over Colorado. And I got to say this, here in Colorado, y'all need to figure your crap out. Our roads there's been some roads that I have hit that are major, major thoroughfares, and I feel like I need to pull over and lock in the hubs. It's that bad. I mean, I've come across a couple potholes that are big enough to swallow up your car. This is a little bit of an over exaggeration, but holy moly.
But not quite. Yeah.
It's really wild that, we've kind of let it bottleneck. We talk about, trucks and trucking companies, their maintenance program. They got to stay up on it because once it bottlenecks, it's impossible to get back up on top of. I feel like the infrastructure of our roads is kind of in that way right now. It's just there's so much work that needs to get done. So 110 billion anyways for highways, bridges, that kind of thing. And then, there's a bunch of points on here. I'm not even going to talk about all of them. I kind of went through this and put some check marks on the ones that I kind of thought were pretty cool. Maybe noteworthy we're talking about. The next one in here that I noted was the measures protecting drivers from predatory, get that word right, predatory lease purchase agreements. So a lot has been in the news, lots been going on with the craziness with the crooked broker situations, the wicked brokers. Basically, in this industry, I'd say most of our audience really understands what the broker to driver relationships are. And there are some really, really great ones. And we work with some really small brokerages that do a pretty good job. But there's a lot of really large companies out there, corporations, where they're just soaking up the funds. The whole purpose of this broker is you get a middleman or a front man, I should say, that goes through, they get all these contracts, they soak up all the money, and then they divvy that out to the drivers, and then they basically bring in people under their authorities to do all the work of these contracts that they get. And some of these astronomically huge contracts get soaked up by some of these huge brokers, and I think a lot of people get roped into them. There's been a lot of bad publicity lately of some really bad dealings and some people getting ripped off and that kind of thing. And it just kind of ruins, it just kind of spoils the whole community. So hopefully whatever they're going to do within this whole situation, hopefully we're going to be getting on top of some of these crazy, predatory lease agreements and some stuff like that. The mandated restroom access for drivers was the one that I kind of put a double check mark next to when they're waiting for their loads and their freight. I didn't. When I'm talking to drivers, it's not like a conversation we have like, hey, when you're out there, you got a place to pee and that kind of thing. So you don't really talk about it, but how inappropriate that is for this industry to just not say, hey, you've got a place. And I think you heard, because you had a little stint where you were working for a local company doing some household good moving.
Yep.
Right out of high school, you were like, I got a job.
Yep. I started working for two men in a truck.
Nice.
And we were moving a lady, and my problem with this was all of her boxes were covered in cigarette ash. And, some people don't mind that. This lady's house, everything was covered in it, but it was making me feel sick. So I asked her if I could use her bathroom, and she gave me this just blood curdling look and went, absolutely not. So I quit my job.
Well, I kind of get that. This is a little bit of a different situation.
Very much.
Same scenario.
I can respect it,
Yeah, totally. So that was the deciding factor. You were done. The fact that you were carrying every size, shape, and weird shaped object up flights of stairs and in and out and craziness back down the stairs and more up the stairs. It was the bathroom break that you were like, no, I'm out.
Yep.
When I gotta go, I gotta go.
Yep.
That kind of
Yep,
thing.
exactly right.
Well, hopefully for this one, the industry can get this one figured out. To me, that's common sense. It's kind of crazy to me that we have to actually put that in a piece of legislation to say, hey, have some facilities available for these drivers. I mean, their wait times are sometimes astronomical, better part of a day just hanging out, waiting. And I know drivers complain a lot about the waste and the time, that goes into that. But I did not realize that was a thing. But shame on me, I guess. I get that. Have to start asking these companies a little bit more detailed questions about stuff like that. The next big one is it says it's got language directing the FMCSA to remove non-compliant training providers from the registry, the training provider registry, within 90 days. I think this kind of goes more toward everything that's been going on with people that were getting their licenses illegally and stuff like that.
The faulty CDL schools.
Yeah, and you know what? It seemed like we had that happen up here in northern Colorado where we're at. And, we had that that was a certain company that went out and I think they just rebranded and started again. I know some others have popped up. I've seen some little shady, I call them the little pop-up tent CDL schools. You just, hey, there's a dirt lot and a truck out there that says CDL training, and you're just kind of like, well, is that legit? So, I get a lot of calls for recommendations for trainings, and we've got some really great ones, that we like to refer to, if they want to go up here in northern Colorado or if they go down in the Commerce City area. I think what we talk about, CDL 303, we big fans of their program, and I think they run a good deal. I think up here in northern Colorado, I tend to tell people about Ames Community College. Lots of different places, but overall, there are some really good schools, but unfortunately there are those little pop-ups, and I think that putting this in there that they're going to be working on shutting them down within 90 days. Why are they not doing that already? They're aware that there's some craziness going on. So I would say that is a thing that they should already be tackling. But maybe since the FMCSA already has their own dumpster fires, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, that they need some more people to kind of get in there. The next one is going to be the language in a bill creating a cargo theft advisory committee. I think this is going to be huge, just simply straight up because of the Fed, all the fraud that happens amongst the DOT. So we also have this new thing called MOTUS that's coming up that went live last week, and that's the dumpster fire that I'm going to be talking about here in just a little bit. The whole purpose of some of that is to try to get the data, get the DOT numbers secured, try to stop some of the theft and things like that. But most definitely, the Cargo Theft Advisory Committee, there needs to be something done, And I always think back here a few years ago to that company, that client of ours that, started getting the threatening letters from the bill collectors and from motor carriers and some brokers saying, hey, we're shutting you down, we're reporting you, because there was under that DOT number somebody who had went through and used that DOT number to get contracts, to get, they got some advances on loads. They got some loads plus advances for the hauling of it. And nothing ever got delivered. The money got taken. When they could, they picked up trailers, and trailers full of goods disappeared. And I don't know, I find myself, first off, I tend to just be more, I guess, a little bit aware of scams and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, why in the world are they giving an advance and a load of cargo and there's nothing? Like that should throw up some red flags. So protect yourselves, but I think to have a committee kind of reviewing this, getting on top of it. But with that whole situation, I spent, I don't know, a couple hours making phone calls, calling these companies. I got a bunch of phone numbers, and I just started calling them, and I ended up getting the crooks on the phone with me, talking. They didn't stay on the phone with me very long. Once they figured out that they weren't running that scam, they thought at first they were going to try to scam me, and then they realized that I was the one that was actually tracking them down, which ultimately led to me tracking down who at the FBI. I spoke to the agent in charge and was talking with him, and he's, the whole attitude at the FBI at the time, and yes, this was a few years ago, was, oh yeah, we just can't keep up with them. Yep. We can't do this, we can't do that. We can't find them and everything else. And I started telling him everything that I found in 2 hours and who I talked to, and he was just like blown away, like, how did you get all this information? And I was like, I don't know. I sat down with my phone and started making phone calls to all these people and getting phone numbers. And, and when I got a hold of them, they, of course, dumped that DOT number, which they were about 2 weeks into using it. And they dumped that DOT number, and I'm sure moved on to the next company. Yep. But, my client was happy because we got that old fraud stopped. But, it just kind of shocks me that the FBI is just not more on top of that whole situation. Okay. The last big point that I think when it comes to this, the Build America 2050, or not 2050, 250 Act, is going to be the data queues process. They're writing that improvement. And we talked about that a couple episodes back with the upgrade to the data queue system for challenging violations, to where it's going to be, that process is going to be improved to where you're going to have multiple steps and tiers, and a pathway to file an appeal, which tells me the states are not going to want a whole lot of time spent on appeals, because that's going to take. So hopefully step one, these states will improve on it, because as you know, if you're traveling, if you're operating in all 50 states, you know that there are some states that do a pretty good job on their data queue reviews, and there are some states that you just kind of feel like they just flip us the bird, and it's too bad, so sad. We're not going to change the data. So I think this new process improvement, once they get that written into the law and codified, I think that's going to really help to overall improve. Data queue has been a major sore point with me for a really long time, and I think I take it really kind of personal, because when data queue first started, back in I guess it would have been probably the mid 2000s. That was one of my tasks with the State Patrol, is we would review them, the data queues, the challenges that would come in, and oversee. And the state's point from clear back then was that we needed to have a good due process, and that we needed to be fair about it. So I really kind of took it that way. But I also I'm pretty proud of the Colorado State Patrol on this, because a lot of this new process that they implemented came from the state of Colorado's from the Colorado State Patrol's data queue process. So good job, boys. You did. You're making Colorado look good on that one. So yeah, we can use all the attaboys we can get at that point, since Colorado's the new California type situation. It was released this week. Colorado is the third highest cost of living location in the nation. I say that to Luke, and he says, oh, I know.
Yep.
He can feel it. I think we're all feeling it. Lovely New California, that kind of thing. So it was what? California, New York, and Colorado. Yep. Wow. I don't think that's anything to be too proud of. So
no, it is not.
Thank you, Governor Polis. Got to get this show on the road, get some stuff going on. All right. With that being said, let's jump into the truck around and find out. So this is the FMCSA's absolute dumpster fire. And I just got to say, I called it. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it. You know, I'm going back. I'm thinking, okay, through the years, all the stuff. Anytime the feds roll out a new software program, it's like, yeah, just hold on. This crap is not going to fly. It's going to fail, and it is right now. They're going to get it figured out. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm having these like vibes of January 6th, 2020. Okay. Now, what is significant about that date is that is the implementation date of the FMCSA clearinghouse.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I'm sure you can kind of remember you'd been with us. So that was your first year, kind of working on your first year with Front Range Compliance then. And we implemented training. So we were training all over the country. Hey, clearinghouse is coming. These are your steps. And we laid it out like this. And I mean, we were doing back-to-back trainings. We even did free, we did big, massive, huge webinars just trying to get the information out there, that kind of thing. And of course, the industry waited till January 6th to go and set up their account. So what happened was on January 6th, the entire system collapsed, and it was just like locked. It was totally gridlocked. And people went in and they started their clearinghouse accounts, and they lost their portals. They got shut down. And then it took them months. Well, we'll go into the days. So they were calling in for tech support. And that was sometimes hold times of up to like 8 hours,
yep.
That kind of thing. And then it got into the callback, and people weren't getting callbacks. So then you had to submit the request, and it was taking 2-3 months to get called back. Some accounts didn't get fixed for up to a year. Okay, and I always crack up because the FMCSA came out and said, oh, well, we're whatever % compliant. And it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Or at least all the companies that I get to visit with are most definitely not compliant, but they got it fixed and it worked. Now, around that same time, everybody kind of falls back. They says, well, it was January 6th of 2020. There was a lot of other stuff going on at that time. Yes, I'm aware COVID hit, but let's be honest, it wasn't full-fledged. It was just kind of floating around and warming up right by that time.
Yeah.
Now come March, April, yeah, we were full swing of the COVID nonsense, craziness, world order, whatever you want to call it. And then look, I'm not beating up on anybody that had problems with COVID. I'm beating up on the government for the way they handled it. So that being said, we're right back to it. MOTUS. This is now live. It went live last week. Well, technically it went live on May 14th. Okay. Nothing was working though. So I was like, oh, well, so we're going to push that day. So next live date was on May 18th. Okay, sounds like a familiar day to you, right, son? Okay, so yeah, we've got May 18th, which was Luke's birthday, by the way. And you know what? It crashed. It instantly started having problems, and it's very, very familiar to the clearinghouse situation. So right now, it's totally a total mess. So keep trying, stick with it. Now, there's a few steps that you got to do. So when you go in, basically what's happening is portal is no more. So portal, my gosh, the portal is the online access point that you would use to go in and get into your MCS 150. Portal for years was forced on us by the FMCSA. So when you went in, you applied for a DOT number, you had to register for a portal account. The only problem was what all portal really did for you is let you access a few of the different federal programs. And it wasn't, if you didn't have a lot of on-road performance, such as roadside inspections or accidents, it was worthless. So everybody was just kind of letting it drop off. And then the clearinghouse came around and they tied that to the portal, which actually made the portal more necessary at that particular point. So since 2020, the portal's gotten good, and then they've tied everything else to it. This last year, they tied your MCS 150 registrations to it, trying to cut back on the fraud, people stealing DOT numbers, that kind of thing. Just because you used to be able just to log in, go to the FMCSA page, click on registration, click on update, and you were going straight through it. Well, they tied it to your portal, which is when you get into your DOT profile, then you can do that. They tied data queues to it, and that type of thing. Well, now none of it is you can't get into any of it. So portal, when you try to go through that, you're getting 402 errors, or 403 errors, whichever those is. Well, whatever the 40, you're getting a 40 something error, and it's saying forbidden or error, whatever the case could be. So here's the deal. So MOTUS getting it set up, it is a thing. I do get phone calls that said, hey, is this real? Yes, it is, but it is broken. So hang in there. Step number one, the first thing you got to do is you got to get in, get it registered, put in your DOT number. And there is when you go to the motus.dot.gov page, that's motus.dot.gov, okay, you're going to come across a page, and it's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. You have the regulated entities supporting companies. So that's going to be third parties. That's stuff like Front Range Compliance. We got to register. And as a DOT number, you can register, but it also has what type of registration do I need? So you can click on that in the middle of the page, and that takes you to the DOT wizard, okay? And literally, the DOT wizard is not so wizardy. It's got 7. I had to count them real quick. It's got 7 tabs from if you're a motor carrier, excuse me, if you're a motor carrier in U.S. or Canada, if you're a motor carrier Mexico-based, if you're a broker, cargo tank facility, freight forwarder, intermodal equipment provider, IEP, or unknown help. And I did click on the unknown, and all you get is an explanation for each of the 7 points. Like literally definition. This is what the points are, but no links. I did go through the motor carrier one, and that is just, hey, click yes if you answer this question. Like, are you hauling stuff for hire? You know, are you this? Are you interstate? Are you operating vehicles more than 10,000 ones in either gross vehicle weight or gross combination weight rating? It's all the basic questions, but it doesn't give you any true answers. It just, when I clicked all the buttons, it said, yes, your state and some states are going to require a US DOT number, so go to URS. Okay, so you have to apply for registration. So as I said, the wizard doesn't really wizard you. It's not going to provide you any guidance. So that means that when you go to follow these steps, like step 1, register your company, it's going to go through, it's going to make it look like it's all good, and it's going to completely lock you out. Or you're going to set up the account, and then it's going to lock out when you need to register your company. And then none of the services are then available. So if you're at a point where you are, let's say you're in the middle of doing your IRP registrations, and your MCS 150 has to be updated and current for that. If you are in the process of getting that updated and waited till the last minute to do that, because that's what companies do, don't know when you're going to be able to get that DOT registration done, and neither does the FMCSA. So as of right now, hold times are up to 17 hours. Ooh. They do have this cool little feature that says, well, if you would like a callback, press 1. Okay. Callbacks aren't happening. So,
shock.
Yeah, big shock. Yeah, callbacks aren't happening. So total dumpster fire we got going on. So you're going to set up that first step. Then step 2, when you get to step 2, this is going to be where you need to claim your company, okay? And that's going to be when you go to claim your company, that's where it's kind of getting locked up and everything is kind of jacked up and on hold right now. So make sure, try to stick with it, get your switch over, because right now there's no more portal. When I did go to portal and I'm getting the 400 errors and it's out. SMS is also messed up. So I did notice when you log into SMS, you get just a view of the data. It'll show you that. But if you try to open any of that data, or if you hit the downloads tabs, you're getting a 403 error. So so that's not working. And then we have the step number 3 is to manage your regs and your programs. And you just straight up can't get to it. So as of right now, I would declare that MOTUS is a complete dumpster fire. So
Yep.
yeah, we're gonna see what happens with that. I told Nicole yesterday, she was Todd and I were talking about it because she does so much in this whole program, and I told her, I said, well, I am going to log in and get it started to switch over the Front Range Compliance USDOT number. And she's like, oh, please don't. Please. I mean, she was like almost went into panic mode because she's afraid because our MOTUS is tied to that DOT number through the overall grand scheme of things. She is scared to death that since we're registered in there as one of the third-party vendors, she's like, if that thing totally messes up, it's going to fry our access that we have to get to our clients' stuff and everything else, which she's struggling with in a major way. So she's like, please wait, please don't do anything with it. So I'm like, oh, I can't throw Nicole off. So we're going to wait, see kind of what happens with that. Maybe we'll put a YouTube video out when we try to do it, see what's going on. But I told her I'd give her till next week, and then we're going to go for it and see what happens, and hopefully hope for the best. So with that being said. So with that being said, y'all have a great one. I hope this Memorial Day weekend is fantastic, or I should say was fantastic since you are listening to me on Tuesday, the week after. Hope y'all had a great break. I know we're planning on doing some burgers and brats in the backyard, and I'm just going to say it's going to be a great event because that's what the family always is, great event. So, again, thank you for all the services and all the work that y'all do in this industry. I really hope that you had a great, safe weekend, and we appreciate what you do. So thank you for your services, and we'll be catching you on the next podcast. Remember, keep your shiny side up. See you in the next episode.